Hello everyone. In this lesson, what we're going to do is look at the tools in Opentoonz. Now, the tools are actually what we're going to be using throughout the course to create our artwork. So let's just go ahead and look at the tools menu. So I just created the new project, and we're not going to be seriously doing any work right here, but just to have a rundown of the tools. Now over here, this is the viewer, and it's called the combo viewer or combination viewer, and we actually see these tools at the top menu. We'll be focusing on the tools we're going to use. So the first one out here is called the animate tool, and it's a very powerful tool you can use to animate objects or animate an entire scene. So let's just do a very straight demo about this. So I'll create a vector level and I'll hit OK and quickly just describe what it does. So I'll just draw a circle like that. So I have this nice little circle, and what we can do is to animate the position of this object. So if I click on this, I'm just going to move it like that, and I'm going to move a couple of frames. So from here, I'll put this in the center like that, and I can change the position of this object. So I'll go back to position and move it down. So after a couple of frames, I'll move the object over here. So now if you play this, you can actually see the object moving like that. So that's what the animate tool does. So the next tool is the select tool, and basically if we have another shape, so let's create just a few circles around, I can use the select tool to select an object, and I can move that object around, and I can increase the scale, I can squish it, I can change the anchor point. So here, if I rotate it, it's rotating about that axis here, but I can change the axis to this point, and now it's actually rotating based on that axis. So we can make standard selections or select based on frames or levels like that. You can drag a selection, move multiple objects, scale multiple objects with the select tool. Basically that's what it does. So next we have the brush tool, and this is what we're actually going to use to draw a lot of shapes. It has options to increase or reduce the brush size at the top. We can also increase how the brush is rendering. So if you put it down to 0, it's going to give a less accurate representation of the curve, and if we bump it all the way up, we're going to have a much more accurate representation of any curve that we're drawing. So there's still more to it. We have things like smooth, we also have snap, and basically it means it will snap to an edge. Let me just zoom in and say I want to continue drawing from this point. So the snap option is going to snap to any point like that. So it's snapping here, snapping here. We can set it to medium or max snapping or low snapping. And we can also save things in like presets and change our pressure. All right, so let's reset the view. So next we have the geometry tools, and this is what I've actually used and demonstrated. We can create a rectangle with the geometry tool. We can create circles like that. We can create an ellipse like that. And when you're holding control, it will constrain the shape to a center. So if I go back to the circle tool, create a circle, hold control like that. So we're going to have the shape being constrained to that center point. So I'll just get rid of everything so we have a clear view, and I'll hit delete. So next, on the geometry shapes, we have the circle, the line tool, and you can just use this to create a line. So just drag and release, and you can actually use this to create grids, lines, shapes, and basically a lot. So that's the line tool. That's not really accurate, but it gives you an idea of what the line tool can do. And you can increase the thickness of the line. So let's say I have this. So there's a 16 size line, like that. So that's it. So let's go to the polyline tool. Now the polyline tool, use this to create multiple lines. So I start here and say I want to create a shape that looks like that. So you just create points, and when you're done, you can close it by starting at the initial point, or you could just close the line at any point. And basically this is the pen tool. So in case anyone tells you there is no pen tool in Opentoonz, this is actually the pen tool. It's called the polyline tool. And I'm just going to use the select tool and get rid of anything. If you want to create curves with the polyline tool, when you click your first point, click and drag. Your second point, click and drag. And then your third point, click and drag as well. Now you can see we have an organic shape like that. So that's how you create curves with Opentoonz. You can use it to create characters, parts, and a lot of stuff. So that's a curve. Now you notice along the edges we have this point right here, and it's weird. So we can select that and change the meter. So over here we could just change how that's appearing, and you can use that meter to change the points of your curves. So it's actually going to look like that. So how do you edit a curve when you've already created a curve? We're actually going to get to that tool. So just know that there is a polyline tool which stands and references your pen tool. We also have an arc, and when you click 2 points, you can drag it to create a nice little arc. And I mostly use this to create, smiley faces and all that. And combined with the snap tool, you can actually create a lot of interesting shapes like that. So here I'm going for a nice little wormy kind of shape, and you can actually create this in any direction you want, like that, and bloop, you can actually see we have a nice little organic shape. There's also the multi-arc tool. So instead of just having one arc, you can create multiple arcs, which actually makes it easier to create shapes like that. So I'm going to go over here and push this here. I'm trying to go for like a cloudy kind of shape. A small one here. It takes a little bit of playing around and getting used to, but once you get a hang of it, you actually realize it's a fun tool to actually use. So that's the multiple arc tool, and we have the polygon tool, and basically you just create a shape with a set number of sides. So let's say I want to create a hexagon, so I'll just do that and place this hexagon here. Again, we can do things like change the shape and parts and how it actually renders and appears. So that's the polygon tool, creating polygons, creating shapes, and all that. If we wanted to create a triangle, we'll set the sides to 3, and you can see you have a triangle. We'll just do this like that. Now see, I changed the meter, so it's actually a much more smoother triangle. If I put it back on this edge, you can see we have a sharper triangle. Let's change it to this edge. We have this shape, right? But I just prefer using this one at the center. That gives a much more pristine, clean shape. But just notice that also exists. So next we have the text tool, and you can use this to create texts. Say hi, and you can change the font, and we can change the size like that. Just select this, and you actually have your text tool here. Still a lot more you can do with the text tool, but just know you actually use that to create text. I'll select and delete everything, and you can use Ctrl A to select and delete as well. So let's say we have a lot of these polygons like that. So I can just do a Control A, go back here, do Control A, and delete to delete everything. That works as well. So next we have the fill tool. We can fill any geometric shape or any closed shape or semi-closed shape. So here I have these two shapes here. I'll quickly create a few colors and I'll just put random colors, and I'll leave color 1 alone and I'll just go to color 2, create a few random colors, just playing around with the color wheel, and color 4. Now we can go to the fill tool and we can fill the areas. So here I'm just filling the areas because it's on areas fill mode, and we can fill the lines, just the lines. So if I go here and click on this, I'm just filling the lines, and if I go back to areas, I can fill the area with a different color, or I can fill them both. So if I go to lines and areas, this object is going to be filled with the lines and areas. It has the same color. So that's how that fill tool works. It is also a minimum gap section. So let me just quickly show you how that is. If I have a shape like this, that's not completely closed, and I try to fill it, it's not going to fill. But if I increase the amount for the minimum gap, let's say here, it's deciding not to cooperate. Let me just zoom in, and I believe it needs to be slightly closer. So I'll go back to this snap and just drag this here and go back to the fill tool. So you can see we can actually fill it based on the minimum gap like that. I think that was very high value. Let's try drawing another shape again like that, and try filling this one with maybe this color, and you can see we can still fill shapes with this gap. So I'll show you a couple of tricks towards the ending, but let's just keep going and look at the tools. So this brush tool is going to work, but depending on what kind of column you have, it might not really work with vector columns. So let's say I have this polygonal shape and I pick up the brush tool. You actually see I have an X here. So the current tool cannot be used on a vector level. It's actually used on another level type. It's used on a Toonz raster level, right? So this is where we can use that. So I've just created a Toonz raster level real quick, and I'll create a geometric shape on that Toonz raster level. So now if I go over here and change this, and let's say maybe I create another color, I can pick up that brush tool and then see how that works. So that works on a Toonz raster level. It can be on areas, it can be on lines and areas. So the cool thing is you can do something like this. Let's say we have this shape, and I'll just bump the thickness a bit. So I have this shape like that. Whoa, that's too thick. So I can use another color. Let me just cancel this. So I go back to color 2 and use the brush tool, and I can just let's undo that. Let's set the mode to lines, and it's going to just paint within these lines like that. So we can just do something like this and create a very weird design that always sticks to the lines. So that has its advantages, but know that you can't actually use that on a vector level. So here we have the eraser tool, and this is going to pretty much do what it's supposed to do, just erase any lines. If I go back to my vector column, you can see we're erasing sections here. So I want to erase this part like that, just add a little, nice sections here. But you have to be careful when you're erasing, because if you erase too much, it's going to get rid of the filled areas. So let's just erase a little bit and you'll be fine. So that's what you can use the eraser tool for. So nice. You can use it to erase drawings. So if I have a drawing level, I just created a raster level here at the center. So let's select a vector brush, a raster brush, sorry. Just 1 second. Sometimes it takes a little while to load, and say I have this 2B pencil and I just draw a few strokes like that. I should be on my raster level. Oh, I should be on the brush. Sorry, I'm not on the brush, so it's not. So let's say I have drawn a few lines like that. So I have this nice little shape. And I don't like how these lines are coming out. I could just go to the eraser tool and I could just erase this section here like that. And notice it has a little bit of opacity and it's pressure sensitive. So the more I press, it's going to erase like that. And we can turn that up. We can turn the hardness. It's already on 100%. And we can change the type to a rectangular eraser. So it erases anything that's within this rectangular bounds like that. And we can also do a freehand, so which will use a lasso tool to erase anything. So say I want to erase this section, so it's going to create a circle and wipe out this section like that. Now we have polyline eraser, which will just erase anything within a polyline boundary like that. Alright, cool. So we have a tape tool here, and we use the tape tool to actually close a shape. So I'll go ahead and click on this. If I go back to this vector level, I can use that to close this shape that we erased. So in case you wipe a shape or erase a shape, you can just use the tape tool and say, hey, I want to just tape out these sections like that. And you can actually use different colors to tape it out. So let's try color 3. And let's tape this level here. And you can see you have a variation. Now you can always go back to that color and always change it. And you actually see you're actually changing that. So that's one handy tool. Here, we use a finger tool. You have the style picker tool that picks styles. So let's say you want to pick this style. You can actually see it's actually changing over here on the palette. Say, pick this style, it's back to this style, pick this style, it's back to this style called color 5, pick this style, and then you can use the style anywhere else. And this one is the RGB picker tool. Basically, it picks the RGB component. You can actually use that to pick the RGB values, and you can use that to set values as well. We have the ruler tool. You can use it to measure. Right, so this gives you the length, the width, like that. You just even draw a line. It tells you this is 275 pixels. So you can use that to measure. And you can now do things like create a shape based on that. Or, just place objects and see the distance they are apart. So now these are the vector tools. And I'm going to stop on this because these are the tools I'm going to be using in this course. So this one, let's say we create a shape. We can edit that shape using this, I believe it's the control points tool. So if I click on the shape, you can see I have those control points and I can make the shape much more curvy or organic like that. So that's how you can edit a shape. So say for example, I draw a nice little line like that and I want to edit this line. I can go back to the control points tool and click on this. Now you can see I have a lot of these points. I use the hand tool to just drag this around. Go back to the control points tool. And now I can just play around with these. I can delete points in case they're excessive, because the truth is the fewer points you have, the better and smoother your curve is going to be. If you have a lot of points, then you're going to have a curve that looks very wonky like that. So fewer points are the key. And there are Bezier handles, so you can use those handles to control those points. I don't even need this point. So as simple as 3 points, you can create basically any interesting shape you want, and it's not going to look all wobbly like that. Yeah, so you can see we have this line. It's actually looking much more better with just 3 points. We've created this, and we can move this to any position we want. We can add handles, Bezier handles, by alt clicking. So if I go to alt and click over here, sorry, control and click, we can add more points like that. But just know more points is going to make your shape look very weird, and you can change these in case you create a shape and you don't have a point. So let's go to our geometry tool, go to the polygon and create a triangle. So if I go back to our control points tool, I can click on this curve in case I want to create handles where I can drag this. Click on this point, right click, and say set nonlinear control points. And now we have control points we can drag here and also drag here. We can do the same thing for this edge. In fact, I can just pull this down a bit and right click, set nonlinear control point, and you can see we have 2 points here we can actually edit. So from our triangle shape, we have this shape. And what you can also do is just move these edges directly like that. So it's a really powerful tool. Now the next tool is the iron tool, I guess. Sorry, is the pinch tool, and basically you can puff out an edge like that to create weird shapes like that. So you can pinch out this edge just to bump up the edge like that with the pinch tool, and it's just going to change your shape, right? So in case you're looking for a curvy variation like that, so you can use the pinch tool to do that. And you can also set the size and also reduce the size of the corner, so you can have a smaller pinch. So let's say I drag this corner down and drag the size. It's going to give us variations like that. So that's the pinch tool. We also have the pump tool. With the pump tool, you can bump up the size of any corner like that to add some stroke variation. So let's say I want to have a puffy or a thin edge. So I'll just zoom in and you can see what we're doing. We're just puffing up the edges, make it thinner and make it bigger. So if you want to create your own style, why not? You can go ahead and do that. You can also set a size. So we can make this a smaller size. And we can also bump the accuracy. I'll set this to like a high accuracy so you can see what it's doing. So we can target those corners much more efficiently. So that's what the pump tool does. In fact, when you create a shape and you select it later on, you actually find out there's a pump tool assigned to it, and you can actually see the pump tool here. So we can increase the thickness of a shape automatically. So it has this pump tool assigned to it. So in case you want to create the thickness of your geometric shape. So here I set it to 6. And if I draw this, the size is 6. But if I select it using the select tool, I can just go to this edge and just bump this down like that. So that's how you can change your edges. Sorry about that, guys. So let's go over here and let's look at the magnet tool. And same thing, you can actually use that to create very weird edges. And you can also bump up the size too, so it has more influence. So you might want to create goo shape like that using the magnet tool. You can just use it for stuff like that. Actually quite a fun tool to use. And next we have the bend tool, which is quite weird. So let's just see how that works. So let's say I have this curve like that. I can use the bend tool to select a point here and then deform it based on that point. So let's just zoom in and see what we're working with here. So I have this point selected and I want to deform that shape based on that point. So you can see how it's going to look like that. So let's say this point, select this point. Now I can rotate at an angle. So let's see here. We can now rotate that shape based on that angle. So like that, we can bend it like this. So that's how it works. And then we have the iron tool. Now what the iron tool is going to do is to straighten your shapes like that. So let's say you have an angle that's not really straight. You could use the iron tool to iron it out. Let's see another. So let's say I have something like this. So if I go to the iron tool, I can just, begin to. So this actually smoothens curves. So let's see here, I can actually use that to smoothen out that edge. The same thing here, I can smoothen out this edge by just painting over it. And I can also smoothen out this edge by just painting over it. That's what the iron tool does, helps smoothen out your edge. And now we have the cut tool, and you can use that to cut a section and a section. So if I select this, you can actually see I have another section here. And it's actually interesting because now what we can do is to make our shape transparent or change the color of the shape. So if I go here to color 0, this shape is actually a complete shape and it's now transparent. Let me just show you how this is helpful. Remember when we actually used it over here? So I'll go to a circle, I'll create a circle, and it's actually on white, we can't see it. So I'll change this color 1 and create a circle. There we have the circle. Now I'll go to the cut tool and say maybe I just want to have this edge hidden. So I've cut that edge, and if I select the shape now, you can see I have, oops, it actually didn't. Okay, yeah, it did that. So we can separate this part. So rather than hide this, so we could just set this to a transparent color like that, and we can now fill this and not be worried. So I'll just fill areas like that. So now you can see we have that shape, and we're not going to be worried about that issue there. Right, so if I move that part, it's going to destroy it. So it's a very nice way to add information like that. And you can also change the color of that fill. So you can see you can create complex shapes using that technique. And I believe we've covered most of the basic drawing tools. And what we're left to do is to use the zoom tools. So you can actually zoom in or zoom out. And you can also use the rotate tool to rotate the canvas. And you can use the hand tool to pan. So I'll just cancel this and just grab and pan. But mostly what I do, and you can reset the view by clicking this dot right here. So what I usually do is I hardly use a jump over here. I'm just showing that for demonstration purposes. So I use Control and Spacebar to rotate, and I use Shift and Spacebar to actually zoom in and out. So if you push up, you're zooming in, you pull down, you're zooming out. And I use the spacebar to, go to the hand tool like that. And I reset like this. So hopefully this is giving you an idea on the geometry tools in Opentoonz. They're literally straightforward. The pen tool is cleverly hidden as a polygon here. It's called the polyline. That's your pen tool. So anyone tells you there's no pen tool in Opentoonz, you tell them it's the polyline tool. And one more thing I'm going to discuss about in the next lesson is grouping and how to make shapes appear in front or behind on the same level. Thank you very much for watching. Really sorry this is a long video, but I just wanted to go over the tools we're going to be using in this course so you're familiar. Just take time, practice, have fun, and remember, you don't have to do everything one day. You could take a few days or a week, just play around with the tools and get familiar with them. Once again, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next lesson.